Before that, commodities editor at the FT. Now, as I said, a kind of must-read columnist for Bloomberg, and the co-author, I should say, since this is entirely a book promotion event, of The World for Sale, Money, Power, and the Traders Who Barter the Earth's Resources. It does actually make the commodities markets absolutely fascinating, so I recommend it. We haven't got that long, but I know, especially those who read your column, just want to know what's in your brain thinking about the future of energy prices and energy supply. So, Dan suggested, at least when it comes to inflation, that we might be at a peak, in part because of what the Prime Minister is planning, the new Prime Minister, at least in the UK. But if we think more globally, and we're just looking at the underlying dynamics of the market, do you think the worst is behind us?
No, I have been very pessimistic through the last year, as people who follow me on Twitter in particular have been seeing me ranting, because I thought that politicians in Brussels and EU capitals and here in the UK were not taking the crisis seriously enough.
And you were right.
Well, I think that perhaps I was right, but I don't think I forecasted everything that it happened. Certainly, I was wrong on Ukraine, for example. I never thought that Vladimir Putin was actually going to invade. But I'm very reluctant to say the worst is behind us, because if it is, it's because we are going into a deep recession, and that's what is going to destroy the demand. We are already seeing a lot of demand destruction in Europe, in the industry. It's a lot worse than I think most people in the market really perceive. But the destruction, particularly on energy-intensive industries, is absolutely brutal. I mean, a lot of companies are operating on negative margins, and that is so long that you could do that, and a lot of them are just starting to shut down production. And it's not a question that prices come down and they're going to be fine. It's just that they are looking forward into 2023, and even at the price have corrected quite a lot. The market for electricity and gas have corrected a lot in the last 10 days. The prices they see for next year to hedge, they will just lock in more losses through the whole year. So if the worst is behind us, it's just because we're going into a big recession. But we are. I think that yesterday was the first day that I kind of put a jumper on me. The winter is only about to start, and we don't know how cold it's going to be. Last year we were extremely lucky with the weather in terms of, ironic and sad as it is, climate change and warm temperatures in the winter in Europe saved the day in terms of consumption. You probably all remember, particularly New Year's Eve being incredibly mild for the first day of January. If we get a normal winter, God forbid, a cold winter, we're going to be in trouble. Hurricane season in the United States, you may probably not even notice that we are in the middle of the hurricane season. There are a couple of hurricanes in the Atlantic, but unless you are a whale or a cruiser in the middle of the Atlantic, you have nothing to worry, far away from the land. But we have been incredibly lucky. I mean, we have every year disruption in oil production, gas production in the U.S. Gulf of Mexico. Nothing this year. Between the 3rd of July and the end of August, we have not a single tropical storm. You have to go back more than 70 years to find something like that happening ever. So
we've basically been lucky.
Yeah, so far we have been quite lucky, and I'm very reluctant to say the worst is over. Also because, let me just give you a couple of numbers that to me are the Treasury, and our colleagues know a lot more than me about this, have been modeling different numbers for the incoming Prime Minister, Liz Truss, and Cabinet Office has put some numbers together about how it looks for the hospitality industry in the United Kingdom under different scenarios for energy prices. I don't know why, but the Treasury seems to use as a model a pub in Blackpool with 9 employees that makes revenues about £34,000 per month. A year ago, at the beginning of 2021, that pub will spend every month about £1,700 on electricity and gas. Under the proposal that Treasury and Cabinet Office has put to cap prices for the business sector, that pub will still have to spend £7,140 every month on electricity and gas. That's 6 times more than a year and a half ago. So yes, it is better than the other option, which will be leaving the market worse as it is. That pub will be spending £14,280 per month on electricity and gas. So yes, you reduce by half the bill, but if you compare, it's going from 1,700 to 7,000, almost 200. It's bad.
I mean, and Dan was talking about the potential way that this is fed through into services prices, and that's obviously because businesses are facing these costs. I mean, you can't help thinking when you look back at the way the coverage has evolved, certainly in the UK, and I'm sure, I know that our Bloomberg reporters were not guilty of this, but there has been an enormous emphasis on household bills. Yeah. And it's only now that we're sort of waking up every morning hearing about these kind of horrific
I think that the business
bills.
sector is much worse. And I mean, you probably read that I have a go at toilet paper this morning on a column. Yes, please spare the jokes. I try every joke for the headline, and my editor shut me down. Thank God for that. But you know, I spoke to probably 6 of the 10 largest toilet paper manufacturers in Europe. Their production costs have gone up, energy costs, sorry, which is a significant cost for them, on average have gone up from 250 to 450% year on year. If you are a business and you are suffering that kind of, you know, energy costs, and energy is a significant, probably is the second largest cost that they face. Now it's the largest one, obviously. Well, you have to increase prices. It's just no way that you are not increasing prices.
Okay, so if we are now moving in the direction of price freezes or price caps here and other places, you know, that means that we're not getting the same kind of market signals, and we're looking to encourage the reduction, that demand destruction that you were talking about, although I suspect as you said, we're already seeing it. So we're in a world of rationing, right? And do you have any confidence in government's ability to select who to ration? You know, every business thinks they're essential.
Well, I mean, what we're going to have now is, if this plan in London and in Brussels go ahead, we're going to have every lobbyist for every industrial sector going to the government and saying, it is my industry that needs to be safe. I produce tiles for the bathrooms and the kitchens. I produce fertilizer. I produce steel. And everyone is going to say,
essential.
Yeah, I'm essential, and everyone else have to shut down. Until now, the dirty job of deciding who produced what has been done by the market via, you know, the brute force of demand destruction, high prices. Governments will have to do that. And if they don't, the plan to cap prices will fail. They will cap prices, but will end with a shortage of energy by February.
What chance do you put on power cuts somewhere in Europe in the next few months? And where? Where should we not be? I mean, we've seen some, is it JP Morgan that's moved back from Frankfurt to London? Have they chosen the wrong city?
I hope not, because I live in West London.
And you've already put a sweater on.
Yeah, I put
as a Spaniard is probably not so, not so, you've got a low bar.
Look, I can tell you we have a power cut in West London a few weeks ago, a transformer blow up, and I kind of, you only realize then how many things actually work with electricity at your house. And I was with a friend at home, and I said, oh, well, let's go to somewhere else, and then you're going to have a drink somewhere or whatever. And I said, oh, but actually we cannot take the car because the door of the garage is electric, and I have no idea how it works manually. So we were stuck at home because we cannot take the car out because, there was no electricity to open the garage. Look, I do think that there is a high chance that we will have blackouts somewhere. I also think that one element that we are not discussing is the potential. Let me put it this way. To start a blackout, it's very difficult. I mean, a lot of things have to go wrong, and the grids in general do a fantastic job in avoiding them. It really, and particularly to have a cascading blackout where they lose control of the grid, like happened in Texas, a lot of things have to go bad, many things. But once a blackout has started, they could cascade very, very, very quickly, and there is much more difficult to control them. One thing that people kind of whisper in the industry is, if you were Russia, if you were Vladimir Putin, and you have at your disposal a significant cyber warfare capability, attacking the grid this winter in Europe is one of the things that we should be very, very concerned. And grids are vulnerable to this, and the European grid is now interconnected all the way almost with the Russian border to the Ireland. So you could attack something in, will prefer not, I'm going to name my home countries to avoid naming anyone, but you could attack northern Spain in the Pyrenees Mountains, trigger there a blackout that starts to cascade through Spain into France, and all of a sudden you have a lot of problems in Europe. That is also a big concern of the industry right now, cyber attacks this winter.
I asked you what kept you up at night, and actually your answer was not that. I thought, now I've heard that, I'm surprised that it wasn't that.
No, I mean, it's something that it was said earlier by Tom and the other panelists, but it's about China. I mean, in some ways, the economic slowdown in China and COVID-0 policy in China is what has saved the world from $150, $170 oil and much higher coal prices and LNG. China is not buying nearly as much energy commodities as it used to. And thank God for that, sorry for Chinese citizens, but that is what is keeping the market under control. If, by any reason, by the end of the Congress, the Chinese economy rebounds, they change COVID policy, the whole thing reopens, then that is when we have a problem. I mean, my biggest concern is that on top of the current crisis in Europe with energy supplies, we add a recovery in Chinese demand. Then I don't know where we get the energy.
Okay, so we've got to hold on to our sweaters.
Yep.
Dig out the rotary phone, which doesn't need, because we'll be reminded that you can't use your telephone either if you get it unplugged. Watch out for a massive cyber attack that causes cascading power cuts all over Europe, and pray that China doesn't recover. Thank you very much.
You are forgetting the most important one, that looking at these numbers from the Cabinet Office suggests the price of a pint is going to go up a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.